Hello, everyone. This is Lori Barnes. I'm back with another episode of Moon Phases and Essential Oils. Today, we're going to talk about the upcoming full moon in Aquarius. This is August of 2022. And let me give you the details for when the moon is peaking in its fullness. So it's this week on either Thursday or Friday. So Thursday in the United States. If you're on the West Coast, the full moon will peak at 6:36 p.m. And if you are on the East Coast, it'll be at 9:36 p.m. And if you're here in Rome, Italy, where I am, it'll actually be Friday early in the morning at 3:36 a.m. And so this is the middle of the cycle. This is a full moon. It's when we have culminations and some things may come to fruition, or what's more than likely is that there's some pattern breaking energy happening. And so this culmination can be like something has gone as far as it can go and things need to change in order for things to move forward. So this is an interesting Aquarius full moon that we're going to talk about today. And I think it really ties into the new moon because this is the middle of the new moon cycle that we're in. And if you were with us for the last video, when we talked about the Leo new moon, there was some similar energies, similar things that I was talking about. The theme was to start a new chapter in your self-expression. So it was a way of you working with the energy to break through into new ways of expressing yourself, which would also entail breaking some patterns or doing things differently. And so this full moon phase, the middle of this entire moon cycle, is very much about breaking patterns and recognizing when you're stuck and doing things in a different way. So I actually titled the theme of today's full moon video is doing things differently for a new outcome. And that is not always easy, right? We as humans, all of us at times get stuck, and we have to kind of like find a way out of this rut that we walked ourselves into. Now, some people do tend to be more rigid, and it's harder to embrace new ways of doing things or accepting that change is coming. And then there's people who are very flexible and adaptable. And when change comes knocking on the door, they are more receptive to change. So just think about where you fall on that spectrum, because this kind of pattern breaking energy is going to be more difficult for people who prefer the status quo, who want to kind of stay on the same track, do the same things, and just have that comfort of routine. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, not at all. If you like your creature comfort routines, that's totally fine. There's no judgment. What I'm saying is that the energy of this full moon is going to come along and might try to disrupt that. And there may be things that come up suddenly or unexpectedly that you have to all of a sudden change your directory, or your change your direction, and you may not necessarily want to change your direction. So there's two ways of looking at this energy. There's the pattern breakers, and then there's the people who are experiencing patterns being broken, but from the outside, that things are coming in and disrupting your schedule. So think about that. Are you a harbinger of change? Hope I'm saying that right. You know, the person who's coming into situations, and for one reason or another, what you're bringing to the situation is change. It's a way of maybe doing things differently. It's a reform, because we're talking Aquarius full moon, and reform is one of the keywords of Aquarius. It can be new and innovative ways of doing things. And so there will be some who welcome this full moon energy and like, yeah, I've been looking for a solution, or, you know, we've been doing this particular way for a really long time, but it's due for an upgrade. It's due for a change. It's due for a technological upgrade. You know, as time goes by, sometimes there's better ways of doing things. There's just, more inventions that help us do things that we normally do, but in a faster and more efficient way. Now, where this shows up in your life is going to really depend on your chart. Everybody has Aquarius in their chart somewhere, but where that falls is going to really give you the information to know what part of your life is most likely to be affected. So if you have your chart and you know where the sign Aquarius falls, then that's going to give you more information about the type of events or people or situations that might pop up. But don't worry if you don't have your chart. You can just notice, we're all living our lives in our bodies, so we kind of like know what's happening. And so I like the idea of thinking about which role are you playing? Are you the person who's bringing change and finding that there's resistance? Are you the person who's experiencing change and resisting it? Or are you a bystander or observer of this sudden and unexpected change, or this tension around something having to break a pattern and do things differently? So we are all probably going to fall into one or more of those roles. You can certainly be someone who's causing change, maybe at work, but in the home life, other things are happening that may be breaking up some old and outworn patterns. And, usually those things, if you really step back and look at what's being interrupted or disrupted, that it did need a change. And if you kind of look for the silver lining, or, look for the positive expression, that you can start to work with the energy. If you find yourself really resisting and saying, no, it's going to stay the same, I'm going to do everything in my power to keep it the same, then it's becoming more and more rigid. And when things are rigid, it's more easy to break them. So do be aware. If you're watching this, you want to be aware. You're looking to astrology and the moon phases to help work with the rhythm of time. And so it's really good to know this. This energy that I'm talking about is a combination of the full moon and then some of the other planetary positions in the sky. And that's why this pattern breaking theme that I'm talking about is prevalent all of August. It's tied up in this full moon. It was also tied up in the new moon that we had at the end of July, the new moon, the Leo new moon, whose phase that the entire phase we are in right now, because the phase starts with the new moon, it culminates at the full moon, and then it ends at the next new moon. And as we know, the moon doesn't stop in the sky. This is just one of the cycles that astrology looks at to help understand the flow of time. Okay, so let's see. Let's talk a little bit more about Aquarius. So an Aquarius full moon means that the moon is traveling through the sign of Aquarius while the sun is traveling through the sign of Leo, because these are a pair of signs that anytime it's a full moon, it's always the two opposite signs of each other. So Aquarius is a air sign. Oftentimes people think it's a water sign, but it's actually an air sign. And air signs are social. They're about communication. They're about networking and reaching out to multiple people, groups of people. And so with this tension energy that I've been talking about, and this change or resisting change or having kind of unexpected events coming in, that is really related to how the other planets are working with this full moon. So it's a very interesting lineup in the sky. We have a lot of things going on. We also have some power underlying vibes going on, because there is a Pluto Venus thing that happened, or it's happening. Actually, it's happening as I'm recording. And then when the full moon comes, it will just kind of be on the other side of that. That's just a lot of stuff, right? And in this video, I don't really have the time to go into the details for all of the different planetary configurations, because that's really not the scope. But I do always mention these other things because I think it's better to read the full moon in terms of how it works with everything going on in the sky than to look at it all by itself, because that only gives you a small piece of the picture, right? And you really, I think you really want the big picture of what's going on. So these underlying power plays that can be going on at the same time can be about feeling empowered, empowering others, feeling like somebody else has power or control over you, or you having power and control over others. So that's a lot of different stuff. Just to recap, we're talking about some tension, pushing to grow and break patterns, and it has to do with change or resistance to change. Some may embrace and want change, and others may be very connected to what is happening now and don't really want change. So do think about where you fall on that spectrum, because that's going to help you understand better how to work with it. If you're the person trying to bring change and you're meeting a lot of resistance, it can be really frustrating. It can be depressing. It can be like just feeling like let down, or feeling like, why bother, even though you know that you're bringing something that's exciting and helpful. Like what you're trying to do is move things forward in a way that's going to make things better. And so in that case, you really want to be aware that it's this tension point, that there probably is some resistance, and to ride the time a little bit out, give it a little bit of time past the full moon, maybe slow down. Sometimes you're moving too fast and people just need a chance to digest and process the change that you're proposing. Other things that can help is going to if it's in relationship to other people, explaining the why. I think a lot of times when people understand why you want to do what you're trying to do, before you do the how, or the, this is what we're going to do, like before you get there, to kind of back it up and be like, okay, let me give you some information. Let me give you some background. Let me give you some vision as to where we're going to go and why we want to do things a certain way. And that oftentimes can help diffuse a situation and can help kind of take away that resistance and get people to work with you. Now, it could be that you're trying to make change and it's not with other people, and you're just hitting blocks or disruptions, or you're getting kind of unexpected delays. And in those cases, I'd really pay attention to what those delays are telling you, because it could be that you're going in the right direction and that the universe is just sending me these little messages like, oh, you just need to kind of like tweak it a little bit this way, or maybe you skipped a step. Oftentimes when you're delayed and what you're doing is the right thing, it's not saying not to do it, it's saying that take a closer look. So I hope that helps. Now, if you're on the other end, where you're the one who's resisting change, it's hard, it's scary, I know. One of the best things you can do is just take a deep breath and take a little step back and maybe look further into the details, try to collect more information. If it's another person, try speaking with them. And if that's not a possibility, I think that you also just want to take a look at why you're hitting these obstacles, or I mean, not hitting obstacles, but why you're resistant to change. Is it fear of the unknown? Is it fear that you're losing control? Is it you don't believe that something better can come along? I would really evaluate where that resistance is coming from and see if you can try to loosen up a little bit, because maybe some of these changes might take you to a better place. Now, if you're the observer, which many of us will be, because not everybody is going to have these happenings in the sky directly activate something in our chart. And I say that with full belief that we have free will for how we respond. So when it's like a reflection, what the sky is reflecting, giving us information. So many of us will be observers and just seeing this take place around us. I mean, all you have to do is read the news and you see that the power plays and the sudden and unexpected things happening in the world. So that is one way to understand the energy, is reading the news. Okay, but if you're a bystander, observer, then really the best thing you can do is mediate, if that's a possibility, or to support anyone who's in crisis. You may have somebody who's really just facing change that they don't want, and they're really struggling with that. And so be there for them, listen to them. You know, you don't have to necessarily go in and be the fixer. You don't have to fix everything. Sometimes people just need to be heard. Sometimes people just need to process it out, and then they can go ahead and make their own decisions. And if you're observing or bystanders for someone who's trying to make change and is really struggling to get through, you might be able to help them see the situation from a different perspective, because it's really hard when you're trying to make change and you know you're bringing something valuable, but it's not being heard. Maybe talking to another person can help you redefine how you're presenting that information. Okay, so yeah, this is another moon phase where it's like tension for growth. But we all know, or maybe we don't, well, we probably do, that in order to grow and become better versions of who we are, we usually need a little bit of tension, right? If everything's going along perfectly and swimmingly, we don't really have a reason to want to change anything. So it's important when we have these times in life come around, because they really help push us to grow. They help bring change in so that we keep moving forward and we don't get stuck just kind of like rotating around in the same spot. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about essential oils to help us through these moments. So what I have in my diffuser right now is lavender, peppermint, and frankincense. Lavender is kind of like my favorite staple essential oil. I cannot say enough good things about that oil. It's like if you only have one bottle of essential oil in your house, make it be lavender. It's got so many uses, can come in handy for many, many different things. One of the best things it's known for is calming effect, and it's also uplifting. So in times of change, we want to be calm and we want to be uplifted, right? Or, you know, even if we're the ones making change and we're having a hard time, like kind of getting things to move forward, we might need to calm down, but yet keep our mood uplifted. So lavender is a really good one to have in your diffuser. The next one is peppermint. Peppermint's really great because it's very adaptive. It's invigorating and it's cooling. And so, you know, when you're frustrated, or at least I know when I'm frustrated, I get sometimes hot, you know, I just kind of get like that heat rising up through my chest into my face. And it's just like, could be my age because I'm having hot flashes. But anyway, it works for that too. But it's like, it has that cooling down effect, it's invigorating, and it helps with being adaptable. So those are all great qualities to help us through the full moon. The last one is frankincense. Frankincense is an essential oil known for being associated with royalty, right? It's one of the spices or the, you know, the gifts. Frankincense also has qualities of furthering the other oils that it's mixed with. It enhances those oils. So I really love the smell of frankincense. It's a little more expensive than the other oils. So if you have it on hand, you probably want to use just a couple of drops in your diffuser. You can use them all together, or if you just have one or two of them, you can blend them together. Or if you have all three, you can blend them all together like I have in my diffuser. I have all three. Just checking my notes, a couple other things about frankincense. It's known for promoting emotional balance. And of course, balance is really important for this full moon. And it also has properties that support meditation and focus. So you may be looking to have more of that in your life as we go into this full moon. I have some quotes for you as usual. And I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, I have 4 quotes for you for the Aquarius full moon. The first one is from the Dalai Lama. And he says, "Open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values." And that is super, super important. I think of all of these quotes, this one is really, it gets to the heart of the human experience. And that is, we always want to be true to our values. Our values drive our moral compass. It's behind all of the decisions that we make. Now, the question is, are you operating under your values, or have you taken on the values imprinted on you since you were in the womb, from family, from your upbringing, your school, your peers, your colleagues, your partner? So this is something to think about when it comes to change and resisting change is that sometimes it's tied to these beliefs that we have about our, who we're supposed to be and our purpose for living. And if those are out of sync, it's going to be really difficult to make decisions and take action in a way that feels good for you. So open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values. All right, the next one is from Allie Vincent, and it goes like this. Resistance is never the agent of change. You have to embrace the actions that are going to get you closer to your goal. Yeah. Okay, here's one from Oprah Winfrey, who I love to quote, in case you don't already know that. And she says, we cannot become what we need to by remaining who we are. This is about growth. And this Aquarius full moon is definitely one of those moon phases that has the signature of growth, of a little bit of tension, giving us some discomfort so that we take action and we grow. This last one is from my favorite artist. She's a piano player named Tori Amos. And if you've been around me personally, you know how much I love her and talk about her and try to play her songs on my piano. She's like a virtuoso, so it's not always easy. She says, you've got to know when it's time to turn the page. And that is what this moon is very much about. It's showing you, it's reflecting you from the sky, things where it's time to turn the page. So please pay attention to what the moon is saying. Now, here's some ideas for you to do on the full moon. First of all, I have a full moon ritual blog that I wrote, and I will connect it to, I'll link it down below. And so there's one for each of the elements, and this is an air element. So if you do the full moon ritual, you probably want to do the air one since it's an Aquarius full moon. And you want to focus on clearing away mental distractions and obstacles that are in the way of getting what's important to you. And also clearing away obstacles that are keeping you from embracing the change, to help you stop resisting change and be open to change. And sometimes the most you can do is say, I'm open to change. And just that's what you're trying to manifest, is that opening. Journaling is a great thing to do, always a great thing to do. When it's an air sign communication, please write down what's coming up for you, because you might want to reflect back on that and see how far you've come. When we get further in the future and you look back at this time period, if you are experiencing a lot of change, then you might want to read your journal about what was going on in your mind at this time of change. If you felt like you were the one who was trying to make change happen and meeting resistance, or if you were the one who felt like change was being imposed on you and you were resisting change, or if you're kind of feeling neutral, but you're seeing this all around you and how you're managing how to support those people around you, or be part of a group that may be experiencing change. You may even be caught in the middle of it. So write about it. Okay, on the new moon, open the windows. It's an air full moon. Open your windows and let some fresh air come into your house. Just kind of clear out the air. It's a really good thing. And if you can get out into fresh air, hopefully you're not near any fires right now. Hopefully the weather will be decent enough that you can get outside and go out and get some fresh air. Go by some trees or some plants or some gardens, where there's plants that are giving off some fresh air for you to breathe. I think that's good. These are things for you to do on full moon, which is Thursday nights. And remember that the full moon is a phase where it's okay to do your full moon ritual before, during, or after the full moon. And during is like, the moment when it's peaking. Unlike the new moon, where you really want to wait until the new moon phase begins to do your new moon ritual. The full moon is okay to do it before or after, because that culminating moon is the middle of the cycle. So whether you do it right before or right after, you're still getting the middle of the cycle. One is like it's past maturity, and one is like it's just kind of, climbing upward towards its maturity. And so you'll just have to decide what is best for your schedule. Now, I always come up with other things for you to do in the 2 weeks after, because not everybody can always do something right on that day or that time period when the full moon is peaking. And so here's just some other ideas to do during that 2 weeks after the full moon, as we're finishing off this particular moon phase and heading towards the next one. Watch out for those power plays, because that in this contention with the change or resistance to change, that energy is hanging around most of the month. So just watch out for it and try to diffuse it by not engaging. If there's power plays that you are involved in, whether you're trying to control others or others are trying to control you, try to just step away from it. Empowerment is a beautiful thing if that's how it's showing up in your life. Do watch out for any kind of power plays, though. So try to brainstorm on how to do things in a new way. So if you're coming into this full moon and you're like, yeah, I have this stuckness, I have some patterns that need broken, but how do I do that? Well, this is a really good full moon to brainstorm on just that. The whole cliche metaphor, think outside of the box. This full moon is very much about that. So free associate, think of anything and just like let the ideas tumble out of your mind, write them on paper. You know, don't judge, don't try to change it as you're writing, just like let it all flow out and see what comes out. Who knows, you're going to maybe come up with some really cool new ideas. It's an air full moon, it's a social full moon. So you could also get together with groups of people. It can be friends, it can be an online group who has similar interests, and you may be surprised that some interesting new ideas can come from these groups of people. But you have to go engage in order to hear from others. So that would be a really good thing to do over the next couple of weeks, is get involved in some groups. You could go on a spiritual quest, whether it's a local quest with people you know, or if it's something online. These days, so many things are online. You never know what you can find. Do something bizarre, eclectic, or offbeat. Now, Aquarius is known for walking to its own drum, right? Aquarians definitely want to have their own independence, and they want to do their thing their way. And they're known for having unique qualities, very interesting qualities. Sometimes it's more scientific and sometimes it's more humanitarian. Aquarians are often the ones who come up with the innovative ideas that solve a problem. So just kind of going out and stepping outside of your comfort zone could bring some aha moments or some openings that you could not have predicted or expected. So that's would be my advice, is to go out and do something. Then the more offbeat, the better. Maybe there's some funky art show that's in town, or some festival that's happening, or some wacky museum that you've always wanted to go to but never have. Like there's the Meow Cat, just bizarre. I don't know if it's a museum, but there's a few of them now in the west side of the country. I can't remember I think New Mexico has one. Don't quote me on that, but you can Google them and find them. And oh my God, what a cool place to go. If you could go to something like that, that would be really fun. It will open your mind. They have things like, you can crawl through a dryer and end up in some other room, and you come out of a refrigerator, and it's just, there's really cool and bizarre things. That kind of stuff. That would be really fun. Also, volunteering. The humanitarian part of Aquarius is something that is a beautiful thing. So if you've wanted to volunteer or give your time to something, that would be a great thing to do over these 2 weeks. And just celebrate your uniqueness. If there's qualities about you that are different, then celebrate them, and do that with people who love that about you, that unique quality that's just you. Okay. There's a few more things I have on my list, and they'll be on the blog that I always publish on my website, and I will link to it below. That is all I have for you today. So I hope you have a wonderful full moon in Aquarius. I'll be back with another episode in a couple of weeks for the new moon. We'll have a new moon on Saturday, August 27th. That's going to be a Virgo new moon. So we will have a whole episode on what that's going to look like. But Virgo is detail oriented, so I'm sure it's going to help whatever comes after these pattern breaking days of August, and kind of like finding new ways to do things. We have Virgo coming up, who's really good at putting those things together. So stay tuned and we'll talk about that next time. Thanks for watching. This is Lori Barnes, your astrologer, psychotherapist, moon lover, essential oil using hostess. Ciao.